Hey guys, Theomatic here, bringing you 3 counters for every meta hero right now. That's right, we're helping you take down Orisa, Bastion, and Illari, who are currently plaguing rank. These hero swaps will help you break the meta and rise up in rank. I'll be creating tons of advanced content for the GameLeap site starting this week. Use the link in the description to get a GameLeap membership with access to hundreds of guides you can't find anywhere else, for all roles, DPS, tank, and support, to help you climb and fiend for top 500 and beyond. Let's get started with the biggest offender of all, Orisa. Now, Orisa may seem super overtuned, and it's because she is, but there's still some picks you can play into her that will get you an advantage, not just a stalemate. Zarya is usually what first comes to mind, but she's actually not as strong as you'd think. Zarya's primary fire goes through the Orisa spin, much like it goes through D.Va's defense matrix, but you won't be able to get any meaningful damage unless you get your charge up. Getting charge against Orisa herself is actually pretty difficult. Any respectable Orisa, even in lower ranks, knows not to shoot at bubbles because the heat mechanic means that you don't need to spam as much as you can. Instead, they're looking for effective damage. You don't want to be spamming your heat-based gun into a defense matrix or a Ramattra shield. The heat mechanic means that at any time you have downtime, you're basically quickly reloading. So downtime isn't that bad for Orisa, and downtime is bad for Zarya. Orisa is usually played with Bastion and other high spammers, but even Zarya can't really handle that. She'll get charged for sure, but she won't outspam the enemy comp, nor will she be able to force Orisa out meaningfully. If you overstep your boundary as Zarya, yeah, you disappear. Without keeping you waiting for any longer, what you want to play is Sigma. Sigma's also really good with the bunker and meta comp right now, but he's a bit different. Sigma's more about the long-range spam angles. Orisa's more of an unkillable, unforceable angle. Think of Sigma as a bit of a third DPS. He actually wins every duel he wants to, but isn't very good at holding space against other tanks. The key thing in countering Orisa as Sigma is your Rock. Rock will almost always force Fortify, especially if an Orisa is trying to take space with spin. If you're able to predict it and have your shield up, you're going to rock her every time. Some Orisas can bait your rock with a spin and then try to spear you, but if you're far back enough, which you should be against Orisa, you'll be able to get the rock every time. Playing distance is key. Most of the time, the point doesn't always need to be contested, so playing angles outside is really good. Orisa is strong, but she can't hold space forever. She's good when she can cycle her cooldowns effectively, but if you have 5 angles on her, those cooldowns are going to run out fast, even if they're the best defensive cooldowns in the game. Use your shield in short blinks. Use it to take space and do your damage, but not for anything more. If you let your shield break, that's exactly what the Orisa wants. She wants to fight you for the space. You as Sigma don't need to get hand-to-hand to fight for space. Use your 20 meters of range and play your distance. You're looking for your hyperspheres not just on the Orisa, but mostly on the backliners behind her. Damage on Orisa is usually going to be healed back up, but those hyperspheres do fat damage if you can get them on the backline, especially with the splash. Now for the DPS. In order to deal with Orisa's Fortify, only one character gets a good value out of shooting her, and that's Sojourn. Final iterations of Sojourn's balance changes, making her strong but fair, means that whenever she shoots any hero, regardless of the damage reduction, she's getting good charge for her railgun. So if she's shooting Ramattra's block, a nanoed Winston, or Orisa's Fortify, she's still getting that charge really fast. Use this charge to go for shots on the backline. The key thing in beating Orisa is pressuring her enough, but using your pressure to focus on the backline behind her. Orisa is great at holding space for herself, but for her teammates, not so much. She can't soak the damage that goes behind her like Ryan or D.Va can. And the support that can deal with Orisa really well, besides just shooting her in the head, is Ana. The anti-nade is probably one of the only things that allows you to kill Orisa when she still is playing her cooldowns effectively. As long as your anti-nade doesn't get eaten by the spin, the nade will get massive value. At worst, it forces Fortify, which is nothing to sneeze at. Ana is vulnerable to a push from Orisa, but if you have a friendly support keeping you alive, you'll be able to force her cooldowns in quick succession. Try to time your sleep right after the spin ends. Either you sleep her outright and escape the situation, or she has to use Fortify to block it. For those of you who watched the Orisa video, if you don't have those crucial 2 seconds between the spin and the Fortify, you're very vulnerable right after your Fortify ends. And Orisa's head hitbox is the size of the moon. If you're playing good headshot characters besides the Ana, she's gonna get punished pretty easily. Moving on to Bastion. Bastion's been doing numbers this season, and anyone in a duo with Bastion is going to start farming ladder games like no tomorrow. But Bastion's playstyle isn't for everyone, so if you want to counter him, you're not alone. And the first hero that does really well against Bastion is Hanzo. Bastion only just now came into the meta with some small changes, but he still has the same weakness he had before that held him back from being strong, and that's that his hitbox is massive. When it comes to any DPS duel, Bastion most of the time loses out massively. Just imagine as a Bastion taking a long-range duel against the Hanzo. you're just not gonna win. That's why you have to play for your cycles, pushing with your team with your form. But Hanzo can play multiple angles and doesn't have to respect the cycle of the team fight. He can always look for one-shots and thick arrows, including the storm arrow combos, to really punish anyone from an off angle. Plus, one of the scariest things about Bastion is him turning a corner unsuspected, and the sonic arrow makes quick work of that. Not only is Dragon good for teams pushing with Bastion, but it's actually really good if the Bastion heads back and hides and tries to use his ultimate. Use your sonic arrow to find him, and then Dragon him when he tries to go for the carpet bomb. Next up for the supports, in a similar vein, try Zenyatta. Now, Zenyatta is not always great when playing into flankers, and flankers are still pretty good even though Bunker is strong right now. When it comes to punishing a comp that plays for their Bastion going aggressive, those 5 orbs and discords really make them sweat. Not only the Bastion, but the rest of the team try to push him forward as well. Just point and click and let those right clicks fly. Finally, the tank to counter Bastion. Playing any tank is pretty rough into Bastion, and without going Orisa yourself, which is pretty much cheating, your best bet is D.Va. The defense matrix is a no-brainer. When he's pushing with his form, you just hold your right click over the choke, and anyone caught off guard is going to be safe. If there's a good enough off angle on the map as well, you can easily get a really strong burst combo with your micro missiles onto the Bastion right after his form ends and his passive is gone. No more damage reduction for him. D.Va's new changes make her super flexible, and that means you can fly in really aggressively and look for a burst pick and easily fly back out. As long as you don't get hit by a stun on your way in or out, you'll be totally fine and put in some hefty damage on that Bastion to boot. You can rinse and repeat this style for the whole game and not just against Bastion. Just a quick in and out 3.5 second adventure. Finally, the newest addition to the roster and still the most terrifying, Illari. How do you even begin to start? She's pretty good at basically everything. The tank pick into Illari is a good old classic. Try Winston. Now, Winston is actually pretty good into Illari, but for an interesting reason. The turret she puts up is really strong, but just like any other projectile in the game, it can be blocked. Winston's bubble covers those bases. When you engage on Illari, put your bubble near the turret, either between her or just on it, and fight for the area. Even if she goes towards the turret, you'll be shooting both the turret and her at the same time, just like how you would shoot Bap inside his lamp. Plus, the primal is really easy into Illari. She has 1 movement cooldown, which doesn't even phase you very much. So if you work on those primals, she'll be yours every time. Just be careful of her friends. Bastion and Torb hang out with her quite a lot. As for DPS, a lot of them struggle against Illari. She's definitely overtuned in her base kit, even though she's being nerfed. The only DPS that really comes close, that's to say that reliably fights the Illari and can win more often than lose, is probably Genji, our favorite cyber ninja. Genji ironically fits quite well into bunker comps since you'd think he would suffer into them, but Deflect is really strong when both teams are trading massive amounts of damage. Look to use flanks to get close to Illari and not only take out a turret, Genji on an off angle puts some good damage into Illari, even though the boop affects him pretty well. The key thing to focus on is not just killing her outright, but pressuring her away from aggressive positions. Her hitbox for the ultimate is still quite big, so pull off some crazy clips just like Necros and deflect that thing right back into her team. Finally, for support, Illari kind of wins every duel, except for one, the even better duelist, Kiriko. That's right, she's back to save us by playing another cringe character. But Kiriko is a little more wholesome. She's had a little bit more time to cook, so she's not as oppressive. Kiriko destroys Illari in the 1v1. She gets to spam the headshot angle, but Illari has to hit some tough shots on a Kiriko 80-80 strafing like she's trying to break her keyboard. Add that to the fact that she can cleanse the Sunstruck effect, not only so it doesn't hit them in the first place, but right after, which is definitely much easier. It's really tough to get an ultimate across, especially if you're playing against a diva as well. Kiriko is also just a really good character right now. Even her ultimate is great for turning the pressure on bunker comps. Run that fox down the highway and they won't be able to sit still anymore. It'll break right through them. That's it for countering the 3 strongest characters in the meta right now. Even though the meta may seem really strong right now, there's always stuff you can do to make it a bit easier. Thanks for watching. Keep an eye out on this channel for more content and guides to help you stay ahead of the curve with upcoming heroes, maps, game modes, and comps that you can download and exploit for massive success in the rank.